Over the last few hours, we've talked greatly about this revolutionary new fan experience WWE is unveiling on Friday, which will allow us to consume wrestling in the most unique way ever. However, is the wrestling on a Monday night as unique as it can possibly be? Let's take a trip beyond Thunderdome and find out. This is Raw Graded. After Retribution turned the opening of Monday Night Raw into a weird YouTube poop video, we get a recap of Ric Flair getting hoofed by Randy Orton last week. Out comes Drew McIntyre to pass comment and judgment on Randy Orton, saying that he is going into the ring at SummerSlam against a fire-breathing Scottish dragon. We don't get much more out of Drew's promo here because we suddenly start getting a lot of technical problems on the screen, graphics popping up here and there, and we cut to the production truck where Retribution is running roughshod. They're smashing monitors, they're grabbing production people. I think Kevin Dunn is amongst all this as well, and they end up demanding that the show gets cut and turned off. Presumably they want to get to the commercial break to see if there's any good deals at Little Caesars. Giving this segment a B+. I thought Drew McIntyre's promo was very good. That comment about being a Scottish fire-breathing dragon is something that will be used in promos and videos to come. But the Retribution stuff, I don't know whether they were meant to be positioned by now as like a threat to WWE. They just come across as chavs. If the Troublesome Trucks from Thomas the Tank Engine were wrestling characters, they'd be Retribution. They just come across as naughty scallywags, really. I don't see them as a threat. I see them as annoying. The Hurt Business make their way out after the break. We've just got the hard cam because we're having technical problems in the production truck. Do you know what? If Retribution mean that I get to watch an episode of Raw without getting motion sickness from a billion camera cuts, then I'm here for it. The Hurt Business address Retribution, and MVP accuses Apollo Crews, Cedric Alexander, Ricochet and Mustafa Ali of being behind it. Apollo Crews comes out to deny this and then makes a little caveat for the next match. Apollo Crews says if he can beat Shelton Benjamin next, then the Hurt Business are banned from ringside during the US title match at SummerSlam. MVP is fine with that, and he says at SummerSlam he's going to bend Apollo Crews over his knee and sun his hide. That's a weird mental image. Short back and forth between Shelton and Apollo. R-Truth and Akira Tozawa charge through the ring mid-match, distracting Shelton Benjamin that leads to a roll-up win for Apollo Crews. Hurt Business put the hurt on Crews until Ali, Cedric and Ricochet all run out to make the save. After this, we see R-Truth bomb back down to the ring. He gets a boot in the face by Shelton and pinned, and Shelton Benjamin becomes the 24/7 champion. And then MVP throws out the challenge to Apollo Crews and any two of his mates to a 6-man elimination tag against the Hurt Business later on tonight. Giving this segment a C. It was an okay match. Wasn't great, wasn't bad, just kind of existed. It was serviceable. It's something to get us to a segment later on tonight. The 24/7 shenanigans will also play a bit of a role through the night, as it is one to do. Angel Garza and Ivar are chatting up Demi from The Bachelor backstage. Angel gives her a rose. Ivar gives her a turkey leg. Ivar says, hey, this turkey leg's not poisoned. I hope Garza hasn't poisoned this turkey. Garza, you poisoned Montez Ford. Garza refutes this claim and slaps the turkey leg out of Demi's hand. Ivar brings it back using the Force. Fun little bit. And they're having a match next. Ivar versus Angel Garza when we come back from break. Short match that we see Garza dominate after he pulls the beard of Ivar. Ivar finally starts to fight back into this one. They brawl outside the ring. Andrade distracts Ivar just long enough for Garza to land a quick kick to the head, followed by a low drop kick for the 1, 2, 3. Angelo Dawkins appears on the big screen with Demi and says he has a little video that he wants to show to Andrade, Angel Garza, Zelina Vega, and the whole world. Samoa Joe yucking it up ringside about this. Samoa Joe reveals to Zelina Vega that he's got some friends in security and that they have shown him some security camera footage that he then showed to Angelo Dawkins that shows what people will do and how far they will go when they don't think they're being watched. Everybody runs backstage, and we'll continue here before I give the grading. Backstage, we see Angelo Dawkins, Demi from The Bachelor, Andrade, Angel Garza, Charlie Caruso and Zelina Vega. We see the footage then. Dun, dun, dun. The footage is Zelina Vega poisoning Montez Ford's cup. Who'd have thunk it? It was Zelina all along. And she still continues to deny it, saying that Charlie Caruso doctored the footage in some way. Montez Ford appears out of nowhere and the Street Profits fight off Angel Garza and Andrade. So, the match, that bit, it's a C for me. The match was fine, serviceable, weak finish. The payoff to the who poisoned Montez, I thought was a bit weak as well. I felt like the surprise was going to be somebody other than Zelina Vega having poisoned him, but there it is. We got the payoff just before SummerSlam. Mickie James returns to action now, and she's one-on-one with Natalya. First time in-ring for Mickie in a good long while. Mickie dominates the start, but Natalya takes over. And when Natalya's in control, Lana is ringside filming it, presumably for a TikTok featuring the sound of Dojo Cat. Mickie fights back, both women get knocked down, and out comes Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. Now, earlier in the night, during like a locker room meeting, it turned out that there was a rumor doing the rounds that Rey Mysterio was going to be part of Monday Night Raw tonight, and this ruffled the feathers of Seth Rollins somewhat. So he came to the source of the rumor, Samoa Joe. So he and Joe are having this back and forth at ringside, and the cameras are focused on that. Meanwhile, in the ring, Mickie James is having her return match. No one's that bothered. Mickie climbs up the top rope. Lana distracts, and we see Natalya knock Mickie James to the floor. Mickie James gets counted out. Natalya wins the match. Tom Phillips with the line of the moment who says, well, Natalya wins the match, but there's more important things happening at the announce table. Wow, you think? Following this, we see Mickie get a little bit of heat back by knocking down Lana, and then immediately we go back to Seth and Samoa Joe, and Seth is warning that if Rey Mysterio is here, there will be consequences, etc., etc. C- for this. The match itself was weak between Mickie and Natalya, and the focus being taken off it just really undermines the return of someone like Mickie James, who could actually do some real good for the women's locker room. This just you didn't need to do this bit here. You could have done it somewhere else, but hey, you did it. And I thought it took away from the match. Mickie's return match being a count-out loss. Weak all round. I thought this was badly put together. The Golden Role Models are out to hopefully save the show. They're on the microphone, excited about SummerSlam and finishing off Asuka once and for all. They're arguing politely and playfully about who is going to face Asuka first, and Bayley steps up and says, I will face her first so I can do all the hard work in this team and you can beat her easy afterwards. It's just the little lines that these two are using in this slow burn of a feud that is just really intriguing me right now. I'm really enjoying the work of Bayley and Sasha Banks. Shayna Baszler makes her way out and says whoever wins the Raw title, she's got dibs next. And out comes her tag partner for the next match, Asuka. Asuka very simply says, Shayna, tonight you fight with me. Next time, you fight against me. Asuka saying, basically, I'm going to win the Raw title, and then you get your match. Simple and effective, and off we go. Not long into the match, Shayna Baszler is outside the ring, and we see a punch through the plexiglass that floors Baszler, and it's from Nia flipping Jax. She's been suspended, but here she is, punching plexiglass like it's going out of fashion. She's out there. Here comes Pat Buck with those beautiful magenta chinos to shoo off Nia Jax. She exits pursued by Buck and Baszler, leaving Asuka alone to face the Golden Role Models. And they give her a shoo-in for a good long time. Asuka manages to somehow fight back into this match, but just every time looks like she's going to get a win, she gets pulled back, she gets shot down. And then thankfully, just as it looks as if all is lost and she's trapped in the bank statement. Here comes Shayna Baszler. She's back and in the match. She reaches for the hot tag and Baszler runs wild. Baszler really gets a good shine here. At one point, she's dominant, but then the Golden Role models overpower her. We see a backstabber, Bayley to belly combo that she kicks out of. Asuka's then back in the match. Finish comes with Asuka locking Sasha Banks in the Asuka lock outside the ring. And Shayna gets Bayley in the clutch. And Bayley taps out to Baszler. End of the match there, and Shayna Baszler standing tall. Giving this one an A-. Really exciting back and forth. Love the story that was told in this one as well. I've said enough good things about Bayley and Banks and how they are just the workhorses of all three shows right now. And Shayna Baszler looks strong here. There was a real concern, from this party at least, that Shayna was going to be forgotten about and sort of moved to the side. But they've really put a focus back on her. And you know what? There's no way you could complain about how Baszler was treated in this match. She just tapped out one of the champions. That puts her in a really strong position. Backstage, Shawn Michaels is G'ing up Drew McIntyre for SummerSlam. Drew says he feels like he's let Shawn Michaels down, a man that helped train him when he returned to NXT after his time away in the wilderness. And Shawn says he actually reminds Drew McIntyre that it was he that liberated the WWE title from Brock Lesnar. He hasn't let anyone down. He has been climbing hills and mountains and fighting his own fight. And Shawn Michaels asks Drew McIntyre to give him some space later when he heads out to the ring to address Randy Orton. Really nice bit of promo work here between Drew and Shawn. Drew is really great in any segment that involves him speaking. Like, he's able to come up with lines to hit, and he's able to tell these great stories as well. And I'm really enjoying Drew doing stuff. And this interaction with Shawn Michaels was great. The Iconics have a little tete-a-tete with Riott Squad, and after this, the cameras pan away to see Shayna Baszler, Shane McMahon, and Marina Shafir and Jessie Mandukel having a chat together. What's that all about? We'll find out in a bit. Peyton Royce takes on a Ruby Riott now in one-on-one action. Liv Morgan in Ruby's corner, Billie Kay in Peyton Royce's. Basic back and forth that these two have had for the longest of times in this match. It comes to a conclusion when Billie Kay and Liv Morgan are going back and forth, jaw-jacking at ringside. And Peyton Royce pushes Ruby Riott into the back of Liv Morgan. She then throws her into the ring, hits the Deja Vu on Riott, and gets the pin that way. Ironic that the finish is called Deja Vu, because I feel like we've seen this before. This is pretty much how this feud has been ticking along, with Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott having these little moments of malfunctions at the junctions, if you will, and Iconics getting one up over on them. We are building to Iconics losing hard to the Riott Squad. But for this, I'm going to give it a C. Again, like most matches of the night, just serviceable. Not great, not terrible, just kind of there. The wrestling seems to have taken a bit of a backseat tonight to a lot of talking and a lot of angles, and this is another example of it. It's time for Raw Underground. We start with Eric battering a nobody. Shane McMahon and Dolph Ziggler are sort of Statler and Waldorf types, watching this one from the side. Dolph Ziggler says that Eric worked really hard and he's going to give his match a 4 out of 10 grade. Dolph, mate, take my advice. Don't get into grading wrestling, because you'll never make everybody happy. He certainly doesn't make Eric happy at this point, as Eric challenges Dolph to a fight there and then. These two have themselves a grappling contest. Eric overpowers Dolph on a couple of occasions, but then Dolph gets a rear naked choke on, assisted by an eye gouge, and takes Eric down and wins the match. Following this, Ivar, furious, steps into the ring and basically pounces Dolph Ziggler into the crowd to end our first segment on Raw Underground. Now, as I've been doing for the last couple of weeks, I'm going to grade all of Raw Underground at the very end. The rumours are true, and Rey Mysterio is back. He and Dominik head out to the ring. Rey talks about how helpless and angry that he felt last week watching Dom get battered, paying his dues for the lads and all that nonsense. But he says he's proud of his son and how his son wants to defend the Mysterio family name. And he reveals he's going to be in Dominik's corner for SummerSlam. And Dominik is ready to fight for the family name. Seth Rollins appears on the big screen and tells Rey Mysterio that it's all his fault. If he had just gone with the plan, joined the greater good, none of this would have happened. And now the Mysterio name is going to get destroyed at SummerSlam. Rey calls out Seth for a fight. Seth obliges, and Seth and Murphy make their way to the ring. As they get into the ring, Rey and Dominik roll out. And Dominik sort of takes a back seat, and Rey kind of gives the impression he's going to take them on his own. And he's trying to get back into the ring, and he's working his way around the ring, bringing him closer. And just as Seth and Murphy are focused on Rey, Dominik appears with kendo sticks aplenty, and he and Rey just start clattering Murphy and Seth. Good bit of father-son bonding with big old cane shots, kendo stick style shots to Seth Rollins. It's a beautiful family moment. Seth and Murphy take a powder. We will see you all at SummerSlam. Giving this a B+, very excited to see what Seth and Dominik will do at SummerSlam. I think making it a street fight is absolutely the right call. I don't know if I want to see these guys in a wrestling match, but I think it gives enough shortcuts that can make for a really good match. Earlier on in the night, we found out that Cedric was left off of the 6-man elimination tag team. So it's going to be Apollo teaming with Mustafa Ali and Ricochet against the Hurt Business. MVP approaches Cedric backstage and drops a few little earworms of the devil variety his way, saying that he's been left off the team because maybe people think he's the weak link. Maybe Ricochet wants to go it alone, since his theme music has the one and only in it. MVP says to Cedric that the offer to join the Hurt Business is still open and walks away. Cedric looks angry. More on that later. Let's go back to Raw Underground. It's Arturo Ruas versus Riddick Moss. Strong back and forth with these two. Moss with the strength, Ruas with the technical skill. All those black belts coming into play here. He gets Moss in a leg lock, and they end up rolling out of the ring, and Shane throws the match out. Loving the work of both guys, and says there'll be more action on Raw Underground in a bit. This was probably the best way it could have ended, because whoever gets battered here, you potentially lose the momentum of two guys. Like, both Moss and Ruas have lots to offer as actual members of the roster. So having them jobbed out in this style wouldn't have done anybody any favours. So I guess having it end as a non-finish is the best choice that you can do. Back in the ring, it is 6-man tag team action. The Hurt Business taking on Apollo Crews, Mustafa Ali, and Ricochet. Ali, the first out in less than 2 minutes, gets hoofed with a Dominator for the 1, 2, 3. Shortly after this, we see Shelton Benjamin take out Ricochet with the pay dirt, leaving Apollo all on his Todd. Apollo manages to get a win with a toss powerbomb over Benjamin, and as Benjamin rolls out of the ring, he succumbs to a roll-up by Cedric Alexander, who appears out of nowhere for the 1, 2, 3, and Cedi is now the 24/7 champion. We are back in the ring now, and we have Apollo Crews and MVP going back and forth. Apollo manages to get a little break, hits a toss powerbomb, and pins his opponent for SummerSlam, MVP. Then it's down to Apollo and Lashley. They go back and forth for ages. Apollo is able to avoid the full Lashley. That's the new name for the full Nelson, BTW. But he ends up eating a spear and getting pinned clean. 1, 2, 3. This was a B- for me. Shame to see Ali get dropped so quickly from this one. And also some confusing booking, in the sense that we had Apollo Crews pinned clean as a whistle, MVP, ahead of SummerSlam, which felt a bit strange. And then have Lashley pin Apollo Crews clean as a whistle. I feel like we should be building to Lashley versus Crews for the US title, as opposed to MVP versus Crews. That seems to be the more sensible match if you're basing it on the booking of this tag team encounter. After a rundown of the SummerSlam card and some backstage chatter between Shane McMahon, Shayna Baszler, and the Horsewomen, what's going on there? We have a 24/7 title match because of reasons. Cedric Alexander versus Akira Tozawa. Bit of ninja involvement, lots of flying kicks. Cedric wins pretty quick with the lumbar check. As he's celebrating, here's Shelton Benjamin with the pay dirt. 1, 2, 3. Order is restored. Shelton is the 24/7 champion once again. That was a C. Fine. Nothing to it. just sort of existed in the moment and came and went. Not quite sure what that proved. Was that meant to tell the story of Cedric Alexander should have been picked for the 6-man tag? Should it have told the story that Cedric is a weak link? Will this lead to Cedric maybe joining the Hurt Business? Not sure yet, but the match itself was there. We return to Raw Underground, where Marina Shafir is tapping out a no-name. Then here comes Nia Jax, who flattens Marina Shafir, knocks down Jessie Manduke in the process, and Shayna Baszler gets into the ring and steps up to Nia Jax. They sound the bell, and Jax just gets out of there. Doesn't want a piece of Shayna Baszler tonight. The last shot of Raw Underground is the horsewomen are just controlling the ring. This week, I am giving Raw Underground a B-. This has actually been the most focused Raw Underground that we have had, by virtue of the fact that we've had some stories that have made sense to take place in Raw Underground. We even have a match for Raw Underground signed for next week between Ivar and Dolph Ziggler, which suggests to me they're actually starting to plan week to week for Raw Underground. I know! What a crazy thought. This is the best iteration of Raw Underground that we've seen so far. On a night that has been fair to middling for Monday Night Wrestling, this has been alright. Montez Ford takes on Andrade next. Montez Ford is dancing and celebrating as he makes his way to the ring. The moment the bell sounds, he remembers he's in a heated rivalry with Andrade, Vega and Garza, and just starts going wild on Andrade with heavy strikes. We see a dive outside the ring, and we see Andrade counter a top rope move with a superplex. This is 60 seconds into the match. They just fly through this. Zelina Vega gets onto the apron near the end to attempt to get involved. Instead, she jumps onto Bianca Belair, who has appeared at ringside, who flattens Zelina Vega with the world's strongest slam. I think that's what we're calling it now. Montez Ford, amongst all this distraction, rolls up Andrade for the 1, 2, 3, heads up the ramp. See you at SummerSlam. This was a C for me as well. A lot of C's this week. It looks like my GCSEs. And it wasn't bad, it wasn't good, it was there. I'm annoyed by the fact that we have the Montez Ford return here in a very quick match on Raw. I'd like them to have kept Ford off of this Raw, and we have Ford return to action at SummerSlam. I think that tells a better story than just having like a quick match between him and Andrade here. Final segment of the night belongs to Shawn Michaels. He heads out to the ring to address Randy Orton. He talks at first about his friend Ric Flair and how basically some of the biggest stars in this business have been under the learning tree of Ric Flair, including Randy Orton. And he says that Randy Orton took that for granted, almost like he was owed it, and treated Ric Flair with great disrespect. And he says, whether it's a sweet chin music or the Claymore, at SummerSlam you will see it coming. Teasing that we're going to get a Shawn Michaels involvement at SummerSlam. As Shawn Michaels finishes up and heads out of the ring, suddenly a wild Randy Orton appears, nails an RKO on Shawn Michaels, and moments later rears back and punt kicks the hat off of the head of Shawn Michaels. Drew bombs to the ring, and Orton takes a dive and out of the ring, and Shawn Michaels is already propping himself back up in the corner. Shawn Michaels has absorbed a punt kick better than Edge, Big Show, Ric Flair and Christian, because he's already conscious and back upright. Shawn, your hero. As Drew is tending to Shawn Michaels, Orton's back in the ring, goes for an RKO on Drew. Drew sees this coming, and Drew unloads on Randy Orton, just batters him, throws him into the plexiglass, and he smashes the stuff, throws him over the announce table, then gets back into the ring to check on Shawn Michaels. Orton recovers, drops Drew with that RKO. He didn't see that coming, and slithers out of the ring to close out Monday Night Raw. Giving this last segment an A-. I thought this was some great mic work from Shawn Michaels, who puts over the SummerSlam main event in grand style. I thought Orton was great here as a dickhead. Drew here as a hothead, psychopathic Scottish monster was brilliant here too. I thought Shawn could have sold the punt a bit more. That's my one complaint. Like, everybody has sold the punt like death. Like, if you get punted, you are asleep for ages. Shawn Michaels was pretty much immediately propping himself back up in the corner. I feel like he could have sold it a bit better. That's what brought the grade down a touch for me. But a nice way to set things up as we head into SummerSlam. I'm really pumped for Drew versus Randy Orton. They've really given this match a really unique feel in the build to it, involving the legends in a way that continues to put the focus on Orton and Drew, and I'm here for it. And overall this week, a lot of C's handed out in this week's Raw. A lot of C's, a lot of stuff that was just there. The two saving graces of this Raw was the women's tag match and the closing moments. Everything else was just kind of there, you know. Raw this week averages out at a B- and very low down the end of a B-, sort of teetering on a C+. As there was a lot of stuff here that wasn't just that it was just very average wrestling bits, but it was more the fact that a lot of it felt very samey as well. When we talk about how WWE are about to offer this unique fan experience, we didn't get much in the way of uniqueness from this episode of Raw to the previous one. Apollo Crews and the Hurt Business going back and forth in a very similar manner. The Riott Squad and Iconics going back and forth in a very similar manner. There's lots of scenes like that. And with SummerSlam coming up, there's going to be a lot of stories that get addressed. So with any luck, post SummerSlam, we're going to get a refresh of everything because very much like WWE moving to the Amway, we need a bit of a refresh on Monday Night Raw. Let's get one soon. Please don't get your private parts out on the cameras at the Amway Centre. That would be great. Stay safe, love you, bye.